Have you ever wondered, how can I get more production in a given period of time? Well, the easy answer is to just buy another heat press, hire a new employee. But these days, it's harder and harder to find and retain good quality employees. So possibly, it may make sense for one operator to operate two heat presses. We're going to find out. In order for one person to operate two heat presses, there are a few things we'll need to consider to be efficient. One is the transfer itself. We're going to need a transfer that has a longer dwell time. We want something that's somewhere between 12 and 15 seconds, which is our UltraColor Max is what we're trying out today. If we were to use a goof proof at a lower time, 5, 6 seconds, something like that, it may not make as much sense. Second thing to consider is electrical requirements. Each of these presses require a dedicated 20 amp circuit. We want to make sure we have two of those in close proximity of one another. Good thing is if you're working with, say, an auto open clam and you're working with lower heat, you already have that. That's a good thing. And then lastly, we want to consider the type of heat press that we're using. Ideally, I would love to have an auto open press, auto open clam, even better, smaller footprint, and just pops open by itself. The reason for auto open is we don't want to, if we get hung up on one side or the other, we don't want to make sure that we're not over applying or scorching the garment. So with all that being said, let's see if we can make this work. In order to be efficient, I will want my shirts, my transfers to be organized and in reach to minimize extra steps that defeats productivity. This is a good rule even if you're not working with two presses, just one alone. The tag-along platen is a plus when it comes to speed and efficiency too, as it speeds up the shirt loading process and somewhat centers itself. So in this exercise, we're going to start by pressing 10 shirts on it using a single press. We'll see how long that takes us, and then we'll set a timer and we'll use two presses and see how many shirts we get done in that same amount of time. So you may have noticed that I'm not preheating each and every shirt, and I know we tell you to do that, but there's in a lot of cases you may not have to do that. In this case, we tested these in advance and made sure that there wasn't a lot of trapped moisture in these shirts. Secondly, I did what you're supposed to do on the front end of a big project, and that was to really preheat the lower platen extensively, like three minutes or so. That is helping to dry that shirt and get rid of the moisture even as it sits getting ready to be prepped. The one luxury that I have while I'm pressing on a single press like this is I am able to just get this shirt prepped and ready to go. Open up the lower hem so that I can grab it cleanly. As I mentioned, we're applying UltraColor Max, which is our DTF transfer, and it applies at 290 for 12 to 15 seconds. I think anything shorter than this wouldn't be logical and not at all productive. So step one of the project's done. We pressed 10 shirts. It took a little bit over 7 minutes. We're now going to set the timer for that same amount and work two presses and just see how much more we can get done with two instead of one. So as I mentioned earlier, it's important that you have everything organized in such a way that minimizes motion, extra steps, extra activity. The shirts facing the proper direction so it's easier to load without turning them around. Simple little things like that. Transfers facing the proper direction at arm's reach from either press. As far down as a trash can, right there next to the transfers for the carrier to fall into. All of these things come together to help minimize extra motion, and that keeps us from being extra productive. So let's break down what we've discovered. At a comfortable pace, I was able to press 10 shirts in just over 7 minutes with a single press. By adding a second press, I was able to increase that by 50%. By pressing 15 shirts in the same amount of time. So you may have already tried this because it's a logical thing to do. But if you haven't, you might want to consider, because you might just add 50% or more production capacity to your business. What's that mean to you? Well, that's extra money in your pocket, more profit for you. If you'd like to add another heat press or look into this even further, contact your local Stahls rep or visit Stahls.com.